to stop at, or they just going to Hershey Parks and back?
We would stop for meals,
Okay.
but it's directly to Hershey Park and back.
I'm asking that, Commissioner, because I think as this is great, by the way. I really like this.
Yeah, we want, it's been tough on the kids.
Yes, and the reason I said that is many of us that grew up in this community, one of our struggle that we go through is experience, being able to be offered alternatives to in addition to what we have in our environments, and we talk about trying to make a community better. This allow our kids to be able to see other stuff that they normally don't get opportunity to do.
So we are trying to do more of this, and we realize that it's not going to be completely from the city budget. So if in the mayor's state of the city, there's the creation of our Family Recreation Bureau. That's a new bureau is coming. There's a new employee. What a part of that is going to be is we're going to create our own 501c3. We have the Parks Conservancy, but we'd like to create one that's dedicated specifically to the recreation side. So we would like to create that so that we can provide opportunities like this maybe monthly, all year long. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and I'm saying that, and that's good, Commissioner. I'm saying that because the thing, I would be open to giving these kids maybe 2 days up there, because Pennsylvania, Hershey Parks it's not close. No, it's not too far, but it's not close to just go and be right back.
The original proposal that came to my desk was to just for permission for us to have the kids pay all of it, and I said,
no.
If for just one center, and I was like, we should provide this to all of our centers.
Yeah.
So this is our first step in doing that.
Okay, I just know that if you are looking into a direction of making this a 2 day, 3 days, I'll be for it. I've been to Hershey Parks, and as somebody that came as a refugee in the city, and it opened my mind. It opened my mind to possibilities that I didn't have. So it'd be good to have our kids experience this.
Thank you for the support. If you have other suggestions for destinations, let us know. And we'll get in touch with you, Councilor Allen.
So,
Okay.
so Julie, what we'll do is I'll just go item to item, and I'll call it so that if we have any questions that we don't have to backtrack. So we're on 15, Julie.
Okay, so item 15, these are going to be all the same thing, but we have received funding, we've been notified that we would like to receive funding. This is from Senator Mannion. He'd like to get a grant to us for $375,000 for soldiers and sailors. So this is permission to apply for that funding and enter into agreement.
Any questions? Item 16.
Item 16, this comes from Senator May. This is for $300,000 for Fayette Park.
Any questions?
What are they doing?
Actually, Jim Ennis is here if you... Oh, right here. He can explain the project.
Thank you, Commissioner. For those folks that don't know me, my name is James Ennis. I'm a retired Syracuse firefighter, and I chair the Syracuse Firefighters Memorial Fund. We have been active for the last number of years to make improvements to our Fayette Firefighters Memorial Park, which was, we recognize our 45 line of duty firefighter deaths there at that location. Years ago, we started a memorial brick project, and we were limited in the brick we could use for the park because of landmark preservation, wanted us to match the brick that was used outside the park. And that brick did not prove to be a good candidate for the engraving because of the park fountain and the overspray on the bricks. Lichen and mold would grow. The red brick would turn black. We spent numerous times every year with professional and volunteer work cleaning the bricks up, and they would look great for about 2 weeks, and they'd be back to what they were. We went out and the Memorial Fund hired a landscape architect, Terry Horst, who did a design for us that we've taken through the channels with landmark preservation, and we're going to be redoing all of the memorial bricks in the park and using that project as a sustainability project to continue to earn funds that we can reinvest back into Firefighters Park and everywhere else in the city where we had a line of duty firefighter death. Any specific questions I can answer? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 17.
Item 17 is for permission to apply for $200,000 for an expansion of the skate park, the Eastwood skate park. This comes from Senator Rachel May.
I do have a question on that. So all of that money will go to only that park, that skate park?
Yes.
No, okay.
And do we know when, I mean, DASNY money is, the question is always, when does it actually arrive?
Right, it takes a while. We have to, once we are notified from Senator May's office, and we did the engagement this last summer, now we have to, there's no drawing for this. So right now, we're trying to get some kind of drawing for a quote and then submit all of the documents, and then the timeline is in the hands of the state whenever they get the contract back to us.
Must be sometime after election, I guarantee.
The time, I mean, honestly,
It is the election
we,
year, so-
we submit the documents, and then the timeline is whenever the state gets back to us. It could be a year. It's a while.
Just curious. on the
But
timeline.
we're all set as far as all this money that we're asking for from DASNY. We're all set as far as the application. We've done everything on our
Well, this is for us to submit the application. So, and meanwhile, the planning team is gathering all of the documents required.
Oh, so
One-
we don't have the documents together per se?
We're working on that. So for soldiers and sailors, for instance, that's one where we don't just, we have to hire somebody to go in and do an actual assessment of the condition of
I
that.
realize that, Commissioner. But
Right,
I
so-
imagine there'll be every other, this conversation is going on in every other municipality in New York State looking for this money too. So as long as we get.
We're working, yeah, so work is being done simultaneously.
Thank you.
We're on eight. Any other questions?
I do have a question. So this, coming from the state, this is a reimbursement
Yes,
model that so will we be spending the money
up front.
upfront?
And then we submit the invoices. We can do it all at once. Once the project's done, we can do it throughout the process, but we have to submit proof of payment, and then they reimburse us.
Is that a guarantee then that,
Once,
It
so
will be-
that we cannot do any of the work until we get the contract back. So once the contract is back, then it essentially is a guarantee.
perfect, yep, thanks.
Thank you. Item 18.
Item 18 is from Senator Rachel May's office. This is for improvements at Sankofa Park. We have been working with members or staff of the library. They would like to see shade structure, play equipment, and a little free library.
Any questions?
Just a question on how you identify parks that are in need of play equipment. Like, has this park ever had it?
This park has a sandbox and a stage. A lot of times, the elected officials, they come to us. So we didn't necessarily have Sankofa on a list, but in talking with constituents, the constituents raised it. So that's why Senator Rachel May came to us with Sankofa, and we said, absolutely.
Also, with that particular area, there have to be some safety precautions. There's a high-traffic area.
Right.
A lot of cars.
This would be very minimal playground equipment, something that people, we would be cognizant of that there's a heavy road or heavily used road there.
Okay.
We would do public engagement with this as well, not just handpick ourselves what we think should go there. We would talk to users of the library, neighbors, people who use that park.
Additional lighting, is that a thing that?
Lighting is not included in this one.
Do you anticipate that will be needed, or is that part of the design?
We
section?
we haven't designed it yet. Right now, we just have a quote for a playground to submit with the application. Once we get the contract back, that's when we'll do the deep dive into the community engagement, and if they want lighting, then we can see if it's within the contract allowed.
Okay.
Council Allen does a very nice job every year during Christmas over there. Very, very, very nice.
We do have them added as a location on our movie series this summer as well.
Oh, great. But this wouldn't take place, this would take place this summer, or
The
you're looking at
the
next summer?
construction,
Yeah.
probably not this summer.
So by next summer, though, we will be able to,
So this is, again, we have to, once we submit the documents, we wait on the state to get it back to us. So we would like to optimistically say next year, but I don't know.
right, okay.
Item number 19.
Item number 19 and 20 are to authorize and allocate funds from our 21-22 capital improvement program. This one, $300,000 specifically for pools and fountains. This is in the current fiscal year capital plan.
It wasn't specified which, do you know which pools it's going to, or is it just a
So
rolling?
we are going to, out of our operating budget, try to pay for a full assessment of the conditions of our pools. Based on what they say, which ones are in greatest need. That's why I didn't want to limit this because we will have 8 pools. I don't want to list 6 of them and then they tell us this one is in the worst shape. We're going to get started actually first with fountains. As soon as this is approved, Clinton Square Fountain has some major issues, Hanover Fountain has some major issues, Franklin has some major issues. We would like to get them operational this summer, so fountains is the first priority with this one.
Okay. How much will the assessment cost? Is that
We don't know.
in-house, or
No, we'd have to hire a professional. I don't have a cost on that yet, but
would that be included in the 300
now I have to pay that with that out of operating.
of operating budget?
Julie, how many fountains do we have?
8, Columbus, Hanover. I'll get you the full list.
So is this up to 300,000, Julie?
Yeah, it's 3, we will spend it all. Our pools are, sorry, our pools and fountains are in rough shape.
Because I know that in previous years, we have done different work on different pools. So are we working on the same pools again, or are we?
So right now, actually with operating as we speak, we're doing a lot of mechanical right now to get our pools hopefully open this summer. We're replacing filters, we're replacing pumps. We're trying not to repair the same things, but if the same things need to be repaired, that's why we're trying to get a full assessment. We've been applying Band-Aids for a long time, and we want to stop applying Band-Aids. We want to do a better job.
I have kind of a stupid question, but should
such
we collaborate more with like the water department? Are they involved in this, and can they provide any expertise on the fountains?
So we work with engineering often, we work with skilled trades, and then we work with all departments. Water, we haven't much. I mean, when they talk about water pits or meters, but we can certainly engage them in the conversation.
Okay, thanks.
Speaking of maintenance, Julie, Commissioner, we had put in an order for guardrail that is steel in Elmwood Park. How's that coming?
No one bid on it. It went out to bid. No one bid on it. However, we had an initial quote. So we are going back to the county purchasing to see if, since no one bid, we went through the entire process. Since no one bid, we are going right now having the conversation with the county to see if, okay, can we fall back on the initial quote that we had? So unfortunately, that's the same thing with the Onondaga railings. No one bid.
Is there a reason for that?
I'm not sure. I mean, they send it out, but and we provided a quote, so they had a vendor who was at one time interested in it, but
Our skilled trades can't do that?
this is beyond what they can do. We definitely asked that question.
Is it possible to get an itemized list of the pools and work that you plan to do?
Yes.
300,000? I think that would be helpful. And
Point to
also,
Josh, he's going to take notes for that.
okay, awesome. And also the assessment that you plan to do. So is that on purpose that you're doing it after you make these repairs to see what additional repairs you're going to need? I don't understand why the assessment wouldn't come
It's not on
first.
purpose. We thought there was confusion. We thought it could be paid for out of capital dollars. We just were informed it has to come out of operating, so it was not intentional.
Okay, so you hoped it was going to be part of this.
We had a separate request for capital for assessments.
Okay. One last question. Heaters in some of the indoor pools, I know you and I have discussed that before. Are they on the list to be?
So we have to maintain the water temperature at a certain level, and we do, but sometimes it's the air temperature that makes it feel warmer, colder. We work with skilled trades. They they monitor them often, because when we do have a complaint, they go check and they say no. And there's a concern that if you put the water up too high and they're doing a fitness class, it's not good to sweat in the water, which sounds weird, but we can't have it too hot in a muggy, enclosed room.
So do you turn the temperature down over the weekends, or is it? does it stay
We're
at a
open 7
steady-
days a week.
Okay, so does it stay at a steady temp? You don't tweak it for those indoor water classes, or, okay.
I think we keep it at 71 to 73 degrees for the water. I will double check that number.
Yeah, that seems chilly. Okay.
1920 is the same.
Yep.
Pools in there. Is that the same, Julie?
19 and 20 are the same.
Okay. 21, please.
21 is allocate funds from the current fiscal year or capital plan, 150,000, so that we can purchase mowers that are desperately needed, light utility vehicles and accessories, and a tow behind trailer. This is just for our grounds operating needs.
How many vehicles are you looking to?
This one is not vehicle, well, so it's, when it says utility vehicle, that's like a Bobcat.
Bob, okay, perfect.
Are these in addition to, or are they replacing something that's already
In
in?
addition to. Well, the mowers are replacements. Our mowers haven't been replaced in ages.
So is this, Commissioner, is this in addition to the contract that you send out to local bidders to do work, right? Like,
To repair?
yes, to cut, maybe to cut,
Oh, okay. So these mowers are for our golf courses.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, just golfers.
Yeah, because we do contract out all of the regular grass mowing.
Okay, and I remember, I think, was it this year that the contract for mowers in the park was due? Is it this year or?
We are on the third year of a 3-year agreement.
Okay.
So
it's
we
not
will be
back-
this time next year, all locations will be out to bid again.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? No. All right, 22.
Item 22 is to allocate funds from the current capital improvement program for court improvements for basketball, tennis, multi-purpose courts with equipment, meaning poles, backboards, et cetera. We do have some parks identified that are in the greatest need. It is on the Schedule A. Beecham, Clinton Playlot, Homer Wheaton, Schiller, Lincoln, Skiddy, Barry, and Spirit of Jubilee.
It's a Homer Wheaton, okay. Mountain View, right.
I just have one other question. So our money people, our budget people, our finance people, we are discerning as far as what we can use ARPA money for in any of these projects as opposed to cash capital and bonding? Don't all answer at once, please.
I don't know.
Tim Rudd, the budget director.
Tim Rudd, budget director, yes.
Don't run away, Mr. Former City Councilor Rudd, because I'm going to put your persona on now. Could you maybe give us a little synopsis on all this, why we're using cash capital? Not, you can send an email it to us, why we're using cash capital bonding and why, the justification for everything, okay? Because I hate to see this ARPA money, I hear about this ARPA money, we're having trouble putting it in the pipeline, and if we can use it for like Skiddy Park or Spirit of Jubilee instead of cash capital or bonding, why don't we use it?
Okay, I'm not gonna do that, but we do have the meeting to talk about cash capital. Well, some of the cash flow stuff, I think next week. Is it next week for the finance committee? So maybe it'll come up a bit there, or it will be a little better.
So in other words, we won't go to the bond, we won't bond on this until we have that meeting? Or any of these objects?
I mean, I would say it's okay to authorize bonding for this, because that's the way we've
And then we can
set
make a
it. We
decision
can
later on to use ARPA money if we need to, or we can, or it's available?
I mean, we have an allocation of the ARPA money. We have a capital plan that shows where we're gonna use cash capital and borrowing. And this is us, I would say, executing on that plan until we have to adjust the plan.
I could tell you were a politician.
Those are all my items, unless anybody has additional questions.
Thank you.
I won't be here on Monday, but I will send reps on each of the items in case anything else comes up.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we move to Councilor Green, I just want to welcome, because they just came in not too long ago, but I want to welcome the Syracuse City Council Youth Advisory. Thank you for being here. All righty, Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 23 is a legal settlement, which we'll discuss in executive session on Monday. Item 24, someone here to represent that?
Good afternoon, councilors. Michael Collins, Commissioner, Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. Maria Lewis has got a handout for you, and she'll be able to answer questions on this item, as she's the manager for the FEC. So this item is a request to authorize $411,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act funds to support the Financial Empowerment Center. The timing of this is as predicted as far as when we're transitioning from the initial grant funding that launched the Financial Empowerment Center to when that terms out, and it's time for us to now look at what we can do to make sure that this is permanentized and funded going forward. So I'm happy to talk about it from a funding standpoint. Maria's here to talk about from a performance standpoint.
Do we have the data in terms of, Mike, do we have the data that in the past couple of years we can look at in terms of how many people went in, and utilized the service?
Yeah, so we have a system called FactPot, and there's a lot of different data that we can pull, so it really would depend on what type of data. If you look at the form that we have currently, it shows the total amounts served since we started the program here, which we've been open now since 2019. So we served 960 constituents so far. So that's part of the data. We can talk about debts and savings, checking accounts that was opened, presentations that have been made in different locations that our counselors go to meet our constituents.
And also, I know initially when it started through Bloomberg, right? Was it funded through Bloomberg?
Mm-hmm.
Is that funding running out? Is that why we are stepping in?
Yep, so we no longer have that funding. Currently, our funding sources are from Cities for Financial Empowerment, and that will be running out. So this will be a bridge program until we are able to get this budget into our city budget.
Any other questions on this?
This is just an excellent use of American Rescue Plan money.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, items 25 and 26 relate to a tentative agreement with the PBA. So Councilor Majuk and I are going to hold a joint committee meeting on this to review the details of it. So we'll get that scheduled prior to our next meeting. The local law will need to be introduced and tabled anyway. So if it's okay, we'll hold our questions until that committee meeting. And those are my items. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Paniagua.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see if we can figure this out. There we are. I have item number 27. This is to appropriate funds from an ARPA funding not to exceed $350,000 to support On Point for College on behalf of our Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. Do you want to take that on?
So councilors, just as Councilor Paniagua described, we have Sam Rouser, Executive Director of On Point, here as well to be able to answer questions about the program. But pretty straightforward. What we're looking to do is make sure that the youth of our community that have their access to college has been impacted by the pandemic. Again, very straightforward use of ARPA funds to be able to support what we all know to be excellent programming.
So does this program currently have a deficit of funding because of the pandemic, or if you could explain the financial situation of On Point, where you are?
A deficit of funding, it's a deficit of students, and the 3 years prior to pandemic, we averaged probably about 740 new young people coming into the program joining. Since the pandemic, we're down to about 320. So there are many young people that aren't accessing the program because of the way we've had to run the program, close our doors, not have texting platforms, not be able to go to community centers, not be able to do the things we traditionally were able to do to meet young people and get them engaged and get them in college. So the deficit is our young people in the community not getting to us and having access.
Can you expand a little bit on how that outreach that you're about to implement will work?
Yeah, so one of the things that, since the pandemic that we've learned, telephone calls and trying to text someone individually just doesn't work, and we just don't have enough staff to reach 2,500 students. So a texting platform would help because we can send out these blasts to a greater number of students, and we found a greater response when we've done that. We've also implemented a mobile unit where we can move around in neighborhoods and get to individual places and meet students where they're at, so they don't necessarily have to come to us. So those are a few of the things that we're looking at doing going forward.
So can this be tied to the Syracuse City School District is implementing in their high schools, it's 5 different counselors that will be working. So I think it's already been approved, or it goes through approval today in their meeting. a budget meeting today, and I was wondering if this is something that we can tie up to that. They're paying for their own initiative, of course, but if that is that something that you could, I mean, be to your benefit?
Well, we could tie in with them. We have not tied in with that particular program. We do work with the city school district as well as many of the community centers to meet their students where they're at. The thing that we do most with the city school district is our early awareness program, where we have our students that are coming back into the community, go to the schools and do presentations to young people that college is possible, to try to encourage them to be prepared.
So there could be some relation there, maybe. Okay.
Absolutely.
Are there any more questions?
Mine is just a comment. So many of you may know that I am an On Point alum. And for so many of us here, and I keep talking about growing up and being in the city and just having On Point, especially as somebody that has English as a second language, and to have On Point there for us, you did well for us, Sam. Thank you, and it's great to, this is, I don't know if I'm gonna vote on it, but, because of conflict of interest, but I'm gonna abstain from it, but I'm gonna encourage all my fellow councilors to vote on it. Because this, if I would have voted on this would probably be the best, one of the best vote I would have to do on the council. So this is, we always talk about planning and investing in our city youth and city kids. This is probably it right here. So thank you, Sam, for what you continue to do with all the volunteers and helping our kids move forward.
Thank you. And thank you all for keeping it on point.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Wow.
On point.
Always on brand.
I know. I think they work together before this.
Yes, I am all set.
Thank you. Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 28, 29, and 30. 28 is something is our quest for affordable housing on the near west side and the near south side. Mr. OJ is here, and we have this, our shelter tax agreement here for this, correct?
Thanks, councilors. Yeah, Matt OJ, Commissioner of Assessment. We did ask you to hold this for 1 week as we got our ducks in a row as it regards the property list. So this is 66 units of infill scattered site housing on the south and west sides of the city. Looking to enter into a 15-year shelter rent agreement with the developer, who is an entity to be formed by Housing Visions, somebody everybody's dealt with in the past. And this will be the standard shelter rent formula.
This is an excellent project, 22 two-family houses, and I believe one other unit that's got 20 units in affordable housing in Councilor Allen and Councilor Hogan's district. So I heartily agree, and we should push forward with this. So thank you, Mr. OJ.
Thanks, everybody.
29 is special permit.
Afternoon, councilors. Heather Lamadola,
Did you have
zoning
somebody
administrator.
help you carry the stuff over here?
It's okay.
Just let me
I
know.
need my stuff.
Okay.
The first special permit is 112 116 Wilkinson Street. This is Middle Ages Brewing. They are expanding into the building next door on the second floor of the restaurant.
Any questions?
Yes.
Any questions? This is in the Park Avenue area that's undergone a resurgence.
Is there gonna be additional parking, or?
Right.
is it just
No,
right-
they waived parking. The commission waived parking as part of this.
You said they waived it?
Yes.
So they're just gonna park around?
It's something we're going to discuss in rezone, is the parking situations in many of these commercial establishments, correct? Councilor Green?
I support this. I think it's a good
Yes.
use.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Number 30.
Number 30, the next restaurant, this is 167 and 169 Marshall Street, and this is Popeyes going in up on the hill.
This is in the 5th Council District, and Councilor Driscoll, what do you think about Popeyes going in there anyways?
I'd rather see mom and pop, but some decent chicken for a change.
I know I could get an affirmative from Councilor Driscoll, so I guess we're okay with that.
Shoot
one.
straight
Go
for you,
it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
All set? All righty, Councilor Majuk.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 31, 32, and 33 for me. I would like to put put a committee meeting together for item 31. Is somebody from fire department here? Chipman, is he here?
Yep.
Oh, you gonna take care of this?
Yeah.
Brad? All right, all right.
Councilors Brad O'Connor, Commissioner of Finance. Good to see everyone in person again. This legislation before you here, it's coming from the Finance Department because this is related to billing for ambulance services. This is in response to some complaints we've gotten about the timeliness of ambulance response. It's becoming a bigger and bigger issue in the last couple of years, and so the mayor asked the fire department to look into it. What they found was that AMR, who is our primary ambulance responder, was dropping about 250 calls per month, and what that means is someone calls 911, AMR says, we don't have the ambulance, we don't have the people, we can't take the call. At that point, it gets redirected to one of the 16 or so companies or municipalities in the area that will then respond. Many of these calls come from neighboring municipalities. Fayetteville responds quite often. And what that does is it considerably adds to the response time for ambulance services. So in November, the fire department started a pilot to reactivate their ambulance service. They're doing this part-time, but since November, they've responded to 331 emergency transports. Those are responses that we can obviously get to a lot quicker than a municipality like Fayetteville, considerably reducing response time. Estimated cost of this pilot is about $150,000. So what we're asking for from you is approval to bill for these services to cover those costs and possibly even expand on the pilot that we've got. This is a service that any other responder is going to bill for, whether it's a municipal or a private company. So we're not introducing a new charge to our city residents. Really, all we're doing is trying to cover our costs for when we respond, so that these residents they're not playing the ambulance lottery and paying or not paying depending on what color ambulance responds to their call. Medical billing, it's a very technical specialty, so in all likelihood, if this was approved, we would probably have to put out an RFP for a medical billing company, and we would do it through them, using their expertise and familiarity with billing for these types of services. The rates themselves are based on industry standards, and those standards were established to approximate the actual cost of providing the service. In reality, what we've heard from other municipalities is it doesn't go all the way. They're telling us that in many cases they're covering about 60 to 80% of their cost. For us, that would go a long way to being able to support reactivating these ambulances on a more permanent basis.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not opposed, believe me, because I've had my share of run-ins with ambulance. But anyway, when you say you just want to recoup your costs, okay? And I know when you talk about recouping your costs and billing the insurance company is going to be the only person that gets billed, or are you going to turn around and tag the taxpayer again?
Yeah, under state law, if we bill for one, we've got to bill for everyone. So, the hope would be that we're billing insurance in most cases, and an individual would cover a copay or deductible, but there would be some instances that we would have to bill the resident, and that's how it's currently structured with any of the other emergency responders.
And I'm not bucking it. I do understand, but I know that a ride with the ambulance after insurance costs is close to $800. So you're going to turn around. We're going to turn around. Taxpayers are paying for the service, and then we're going to bill them $800 for the copay.
Yeah, and this isn't a service that we're currently providing. So I don't know that I'd say the taxpayers are paying for the service. This is additive to what the fire department is currently providing the taxpayers.
The taxpayers are paying for the fire department, so that's what she's saying. It's like they're getting charged twice. So when the police come to our house, they don't bill us, we don't pay them.
Yeah.
But the fire department's gonna bill us for coming to help us.
Yeah, and from a budgeting perspective, the way I see this is, if we're adding the service, we can do two things. We can raise taxes, or we can charge a fee for the service. The standard is charging the fee for the service.
Or we can just not have the service.
Yeah.
We need the
Right.
service.
Yes, that's
I
right.
would like to have a community meeting on this, because I think a lot of people have questions, and for the sake of time and being respectful of everybody's time, I think, why don't we do that? I'll talk to the city clerk, and we'll arrange that, and let's have further conversation.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Chief was coming up, maybe Chief Mons had something to
Chief
say.
Mon, you want to
Mons.
add something?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chief Mons. I think Brad explained what our goal is. Our number one goal is to provide a service for our people that we're responsible of protecting. But I will just add this, that our current budget doesn't fund us to provide this service. We're doing it on top of everything else we're doing. So we're just trying to provide this service when the private ambulances can't provide the service, so people can get their 911 calls answered. So I just wanted to make that point clear. We are not funded right now to provide this service. And having some type of billing process in place helps us to put back into the service that we're providing to give the people the responses for these 911 calls that aren't getting answered. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Councilor, if you don't mind, Chief, I would like to say thank you with that statement that you just made. For you guys to, respond to 331 calls with ambulance services that you guys are doing, that's amazing. To provide a service for us here in the city of Syracuse, and I want to thank you, your staff, and the gentlemen and the women that are on the Syracuse Fire Department for providing a service.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yes, like I said, we will schedule a committee meeting so that everybody's question would be answered. Next, is this Jimmy item? Jimmy, did I call you out?
He's taking his jacket off.
Jimmy Oliver, Deputy Director of Community Engagement for the Syracuse Police Department.
It's coming, Jimmy. It's coming.
We're looking to extend our lease at the Hamilton Street Boys and Girls Club with Syracuse Select to launch our teen program for 13 to 18-year-olds from March until April. This is the group. We've been serving 6 to 13 for about 8 months. We believe that the folks that need us the most are teenagers. And we want to provide a service and an opportunity to put them in front of positive individuals, to show them what's possible from 8 p.m. to midnight on Fridays and Saturday nights.
How long is the extension, Jimmy?
Until April 9th.
Upcoming?
Yes.
It's very short.
Yeah, it's a pilot. Yeah, it's a pilot program. We wanted to see, again, just like we did our youth camps. We started small, see what sticks, put a variety of different things out there, and we want to do the same thing we did with this, because we have some things that are coming in the summer for teens around STEM, around jobs and things of that nature. So this is just a focal point to see, engage the teens, see what they want to do, see what they like, and then implement those programs that they want to do.
Jimmy, what is the time again?
8 p.m. to midnight.
So in the budget, did you put in for transportation?
We have a van at the police department that we have been using in case kids or anyone or volunteers need transportation back and forth. So we have that. We didn't have to put that in there.
And counselors, and just so everybody knows, that's going to undergo a change of ownership. I met with the new owners. I guess they met with you too, Jimmy. So, if this is successful, I'm pretty sure that they'll go along with, any kind of other extensions we might need too. So I just wanted to add that, because I know you were concerned about that, Counselor Allen.
Yeah, and I'm more concerned about them leaving at midnight and the transportation being optional. Because we don't want that, if something happens while they leave our league, then that kind of falls on us. So is there a way that we can like make sure that they have a ride home or they're not walking home?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I mean, we looked at options, Central runs there. We looked at tokens, so there's a bus stop on the corner of West Genesee and West Fayette where kids can get. But again, if kids say they need transportation, we're going to provide it, regardless of whether we have to get home at 1, 2, 3 a.m. But we can work on that more thoroughly. But we have things in place to do it for kids.
What's the age group generally?
13 to 18.
Jimmy, I want to say that I think the Pell program is an awesome program and you're doing a great job. One thing I would say is for transportation, not to knock anything, but let's make sure we not give them optional. Let's make sure we have how they're getting home. If that's collaboration with the Boys and Girls Club to use their vans or council, I will, volunteer my time, but let's just make sure that we don't have any issues, even if we got to figure out if we got to rent a bus, on those days to get them home.
Absolutely.
Continue to do a great job. You're doing good, Jim.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
How many young people do you have?
We're looking to target 200 kids a night, 200 teenagers a night.
You said a night?
A night, because we're doing it Friday and Saturday nights.
So that let out is going to be serious, and you know what I mean by the let out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, if we're putting, the folks in front of the kids and we're talking about expectations, we're going to do our very best to make sure those things don't happen. We are going to have support from our department, the police department, as well as the sheriff's department, as well as the state troopers. And we're going to, again, past practice is a lot of our parents have dropped kids off in our other camps and picked them up. I don't know if this will be the same with teens, but we'll do everything in our power to make sure that it's clean, safe, and fun.
Is this money being requested only for rent, or is it also program services like marketing and food for the kids?
Nope, it's just for the rental. And, I know it's a lot of money, but, again, this is the best facility, in my opinion, in the city of Syracuse that could hold an event like this. With the different spaces, with the different rooms, to be able to break kids out, to make sure that ratios are where they need to be, and make sure that we have individuals greeting at checkpoints. I mean, what we're saying is that if you come into the event, you have to stay to the event. If you leave, you can no longer come back in, because we don't know, again, what you're doing when you leave and when you come back in. But yeah, to your point, that's what it's going to cost. We have resources in our budget to pay for food and marketing. Our board of directors, our folks that do in-kind service for us, are taking care of some of those other things. So we'll make sure kids have food, fun activities, and have a good time.
Jimmy, how many officers from SPD are we anticipating will be there, and what will their involvement be?
Yep, that's a great question. We're looking to have the chief has committed 5 officers per night. But what I want to make clear is that the officers are not there to do security. They're there to build relationships with our young people. That's what PAL stands for. That's what we've been pushing. So the first mindset is to engage. They're going to be serving pizza. They're going to be welcoming. They're going to be running the brackets. They're going to be, video games, whatever we have. We want that to be their first line of defense, so to speak. But let's also be clear that if something breaks out, they will use their professional job to make sure things are handled the correct way.
Mr. Oliver, you also have other agencies that are going to be there.
Correct.
So there'll be more than just 5.
Correct. We have Syracuse University that's also going to send students down to help and assist. The Onondaga County Sheriffs, as I mentioned, state troopers, probation department. They've all been engaged in what we've been doing.
So those are the people helping.
Correct.
That the kids stay inside rather than coming in and out of the building and not knowing where they are.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, Jimmy, with the goal of PAL being able to help kids have options out of their circumstances, now, does this also mean that PAL is engaging organization like OnPoint to also offer the services and making sure that kids that are there, that are 18 years old, that are thinking of college and have not really thought of college, are able to also get exposed and engage with OnPoint and other organizations?
Yeah, that's another great point. We will engage with OnPoint. I know firsthand how remarkable OnPoint is. You know, my other job many years ago, 20 years ago at the Boys and Girls Club, when OnPoint was just starting, we will put people in front of our kids to give them that access. But there's phases that you have to implement those type of things, and we want to make sure that we implement them, but we also are intentional about how quickly we're implementing. But that we definitely want to do that, as well as with other nonprofits in town, the YMCA, the Red House, CFAC, the Community Folk Arts Center. We've been engaging, a variety of different other places, but we want to do it slowly and intentionally and make sure it's right.
Other questions? Thank you, Jim.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Last item, 33.
Good evening, councilors. Evening, afternoon. Sharon Owens, Deputy Mayor of the City of Syracuse. I'm a little sleepy right now. This item, we're looking for authorization for the use of $70,702 to contract with Tillman Training and Consulting Services. Dr. Chico Tillman is a national expert in the area of community violence intervention. He was introduced to me, he's a fellow out of the University of Chicago, and he was introduced to me this year through some of our community stakeholders. And it was during that introduction that I realized that I knew Dr. Tillman. Dr. Tillman was instrumental in the development of the Cure Violence model out of Chicago. And when DCJS brought the Cure Violence model into our community through SNUG, when I was at Southwest, I was one of those agencies that applied in the state, and we received those funding. And it was at that time that I remember meeting Dr. If I call him Dr. Chico, is because that's what I call him. So Dr. Tillman at Southwest, because they provided the training to all of the SNUGs in New York State. And so here we are, we have an opportunity. Gun violence is in the news too much in this community. The final ruling of the U.S. Treasury recognized the uptick in violence, particularly gun violence, across the country. And in doing so, have authorized the use of ARPA funds for gun violence intervention and prevention services. So we are setting aside an amount of money, a significant amount of money, to do violence prevention and intervention. But how do we do it? And so the purpose of this assessment is to get outside view. We love our community. We always have ideas about how to help us, but sometimes we need somebody outside of our house to take a look at our house. The purpose for the community violence intervention assessment is that law enforcement has its statistics and methodology when it comes to knowing where the guns are, who has the guns, what activities are driving the gun activity. And they do it in a data-driven way. We have probably about 5 community-based organizations or groups that do intervention on the ground. They are heroes, men and women that are heroes that are out there in the neighborhoods when we are probably asleep. I know I'm asleep when they're doing the work. But what we don't have on that side is a good assessment of what they're doing, how are they measuring it, what gaps are we seeing in the service they're providing? So the city of Syracuse has a basis of that information. That is why I'd like to contract with Dr. Tillman. I was reassured, and I provided you some background on him, reassured we met last week with the new regional director of the U.S. Department of Justice. And I was talking about the Mayor's Office to Reduce Gun Violence. We're doing the director search now. And I mentioned Dr. Tillman, and they knew exactly who I was talking about. And so I see this as a great opportunity to bring him and his team on the ground. They're going to be doing quantitative data collection to really look at the data around what the problem is, but also qualitative data. Focus group, individual meetings. They're going to be working with city departments, those of you who are on the ground and know what's going on in this particular area, the new director, to identify who those stakeholder groups are that he needs to get this assessment from. At the end of that, he'll produce a report. That report, for me, has two purposes. It gives us a foundation of giving us an idea of our community-based efforts, which are all from the heart and completely engaged in addressing this issue, but gives us some direction on where we should be going. It also will provide some a footprint of data and information for the director of the Office of Gun Violence, who will work in combination. Also, we also have applied, we have an opportunity through the Bloomberg Harvard Initiative, Bloomberg Philanthropies, to apply for a fellow. We're going to apply for that fellow in this topic area. So we're really looking to pull a team together to really take a look at what are the issues. I'm going to hire this director, and what I want everybody in Syracuse to know is this one person is not going to solve the gun violence in this community, but it will be an individual whose sole job is to continue to work to look at the best models, to work with partners like Dr. Tillman, if you so approve this funding, and other stakeholders like our counterpart in Rochester who have established the same. I think that if we create synergy across our upstate communities around gun violence and the issues, we'll have a unified voice to make pleas to our state legislator and our federal government. Any questions?
Question?
Yes.
What's the timeline of the research and when the report will be completed?
So as soon as, if we get approval, we'll work through our process to get them under contract. We hope to get them on the ground as early as April, maybe May. He'll work through the summer, and then we'll have a report by, I believe it was September. However, he will be working and talking with me, talking with stakeholders like Rashida and Helen and people just are on the ground. Counselor gathers throughout this process, because if there's something that he finds that we should act on, I'm not going to wait for a report.
That's right.
Other questions?
Counselors, I will be out of town starting Saturday. Me too. I got to dance a little bit. I'm going to take some time off. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we get off of the violence topic, I just want to put it out there. SNUG, which Deputy Mayor mentioned, they will be having a rally Friday starting at 2:30, and then they're going to go back to the Southwest Community Center at 4 o'clock. And I'm asking the community to come out. They're talking about solutions. They want folks to come together, sit in a room, and let's talk about solutions working with our young people. With that, Counselor Allen.
Did you say 4 p.m. on Friday?
Yes.
And where is the rally at? Is it going to be at Southwest or somewhere else?
No.
Okay, so you let us know. Okay. All right, thank you. So I have item 34. We discussed this last week in the committee meeting, but I'm assuming that we may still have some questions. And the only thing that I see a possible discrepancy in is the administrative fee, because from last time, I know, but I need to make it clear in my brain. Because I know last week we said it was 11.6, so can y'all just break that down to me, the administrative fee? Because now it's 3.7.
Whichever, go ahead, Steve.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Butler, Executive Director of CNY Arts. Thank you for having me here. That's a very good question. The way ARPA defines administrative overhead does not include personnel. So the administrative overhead is, I think, 3.7%, And personnel then would be, it does add up to 11.6 of the cost to manage the program, but the personnel is the difference in that, which I believe is 8.9, I think.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Okay, could I, then you're gonna have to run that by me again, Steve. So in other words, ARPA can only pay for 3.7.
No, ARPA can only, I believe ARPA can only define administrative overhead as non-personnel costs, but personnel is a legitimate qualified expense for ARPA. It just can't be labeled administrative overhead.
So you'll just label that other 8 point.
As personnel. And I think that's in the PowerPoint that was sent out to the council.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now that we got that out of the way. So for those that weren't at the committee meeting or weren't able to participate, can you just give us an overview of this item? I don't know if you or Kate wants to do that.
Well, I can.
Okay.
Or do you want to? Well, I can start. I'll start. Okay. Sure. Kate Atwater, I'm the Public Art Coordinator for the City of Syracuse, and which is in city planning. So this is a request to appropriate $1.25 million from in ARPA funding to fund an arts and cultural recovery fund. This funding will be going specifically to not-for-profit arts and cultural organizations in the city, as well as individual artists who live and work here in the city. It is to help them, make them whole after what has taken place with the pandemic. I think in that the information that was sent to all of your inboxes last week, Steve Butler with CNY Arts really showed what the need is within the community, within the arts community as a result of the pandemic. The participants in this program will have to show, demonstrate their need as a result of the pandemic. I will say that CNY Arts will be, if this passes, obviously, would be the administrator of these funds. They are our regional arts council, and this really is completely within their wheelhouse. They have the connections out into the community, into the arts community. They know all the players. They are also dedicated to making sure that the funding would be distributed in an equitable fashion, and will make a true effort to go and reach out to artists as well as arts organizations that are not the usual suspects, but really go out into the community and find the organizations that are in need. Across the board, there is need, obviously, but we are looking in particular to find the people who are not usually at the table. There will be technical assistance to help with completing applications. And we do have full faith that CNY Arts can administer this program effectively. So, and Steve Butler, the executive director of CNY Arts, is here to answer any specific questions, but maybe.
So I do
if
have
the
one
council-
question.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
because these are public funds, do all the projects have to be in public spaces?
No.
Okay.
No. This is in support of for example, different non-for-profit organizations that are looking to help with their. Oh well, I should have Steve, you answer this question. Why don't you go ahead?
So, good question. The funds actually serve the art sector, and just to be clear, the art sector it's really arts, culture, and heritage. We give grants in all of those categories. And so, whether it's a ticketed event at a venue or an outdoor festival, they're equally able to apply.
Okay.
So Steve, this will only be used for arts venues. This will not be used for any kind of physical infrastructure at all, correct? In any public space?
This funding is really about programs, projects that will boost the economy. There are other mechanisms for capital funding. The state has put $20 million aside last year and this year through the New York State Council of the Arts for capital improvements. There's also the Empire State Development Corporation, which has a huge capital program that works with the arts organizations. This is really geared towards serving the citizens of Syracuse and getting people back into our city to, first off, have the quality of life that art, culture, and heritage provide, but also boost the local economy because these are recovery funds.
Fully aware of that, and I agree with that. Being economic development chairman, arts adds to the economy as far as the community goes, and the community suffered as a whole, not only the artists. But I just wanted to make sure that this was going to be totally focused on that and not any change in any kind of physical infrastructure.
Yeah, this is not for facade improvements or things of that nature.
I have a question. You mentioned that it had to be a not-for-profit organization?
Actually, there is a component in this for the for-profits, and we do work with them as well. So, just for example, the Palace Theater, the Living Room on Burnett Ave, excuse me. Funk and Waffle, which often has, an artistic lineup. They would be eligible for artistic programming as long as they're employing artists and bringing people out into the local economy.
And even the independent artists, Rashida, they're definitely not a non-for-profit, so.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's true, and we often refer to independent artists as sole proprietors.
Right.
So they are not.
So how are we gonna get the information out to like the independent artists that are not?
In the administrative part of the budget, there are marketing dollars, and this is a core business of CNY Arts. We've been doing this for 25 years. We have extensive mailing lists. We have extensive social media. We also, we have boots on the ground. We do in-person meetings, and we do outreach. We always target that in our application pool of applicants that come in, that at least 25% are new applicants that we have not seen before. And I could go down the rabbit hole on what, a lot of times people self-select away from the table thinking they're not eligible, and we're very good about making the connection to them that indeed they are for these funds. And often, an application process can feel overwhelming. So as Kate mentioned, there's technical assistance, and it's great when it's in person because people are sitting in a room like, I didn't know you were even here, and the next thing you know, they're partnering on a project, and all kinds of things come out of even that portion of the process.
I want to piggyback a little bit on Councilor Caldwell because I know that I've been talking to some of the different groups in the city, and I know that there are a lot of dance troupes in our city.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to know, how do we get this information to them where, the mother is paying how many thousands of dollars to go to New York to go to the Joffrey? So how are we reaching out to the community of the groups?
I don't know if you know this, but we produce a show in normal times every year called Dasher's Magical Gift, and it's with the dance troupe, and often the auditions are general to multiple dance troupes. So we have a pretty extensive relationship with the dance community. Again, another rabbit hole, but we've often felt dance is a little bit under of dance organizations. And so where does that begin? Of course, with the dance schools. So we pay very close attention to all of those
choreographers you're talking about, and I'm not trying to be particular, you're talking about ballet. There are a lot of groups in the community that do different types of dance.
Exactly, like Carol Charles, Parents Promoting Dance, for instance, comes right to mind. It's not all about ballet. And in fact, our show starts with two penguins tap dancing down from the back of the audience down, because we didn't want the show to be all about a ballet. We understand that there are many forms of dance in the community that should be represented and acknowledged. And as I said, we don't think that they've had the same perch that other arms have. They're interested.
First is, would it be possible to see the list of the awardees last time?
The list of the awardees from other grant application process.
Just here, that are specifically here in the city of Syracuse. Assume people who have applied to you, and you were able to award them.
Right. We're in the middle of several grant application processes now. One is a state decentralization program. One is a small rescue program, and then there's county general operating support in Tier 3. And so we have a great number of applicants, and they're going to be awarded over the next couple of weeks. Are encouraged to come in.
Yes, I would appreciate that. I would like to see that.
Absolutely.
Which leads me to my next question. Who are the panelists, and how do you choose those panelists?
We have an extensive roster of panelists. They are experts in the arts disciplines. They are trained in conflict of interest. We have their bios, so we know where there might be potential conflicts of interest. We'd also suggested in our proposal that Kate serve ex officio to ensure that, communicate the city wants and needs more, perhaps articulate more closely to the panelists as they make their decisions. And applicants are encouraged to get those hunts because them successful. Let's say they and we do have other application mechanisms throughout the year.
Now, what is the age group that in your panelists are making decisions? Because it is important that they're involved in this.
The youngest have are about 8. That's a cumbersome process. Others also have to tell us as well. Could apply no matter which group. Because that is funds. There's no, oh, this is only for adult adult casts and visual artists, and
uh, 37 and 38, I believe will also come to